As we were saying, the Chief Inspector's report doesn't pull its punches, but as we were hearing there, Zara's family saying, it's a bit more than that. Ministers have promised action on these issues before, and it's just not happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolute travesty. I mean, what a horrible, horrible case. And yet again, another dent in the confidence of the Metropolitan Police Service, of women on the streets of London not feeling safe, and of the system just letting people down. And as a national lead for victims for the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, this case is deeply, deeply worrying, and also terribly sad to hear that that Zara's family have read about some of those statements from the government in the press today. I know the Prisons and Probations Minister, Damien Hines, very well, and I know that that's definitely not the level at which he would want to be working. So, from their perspective, deeply, deeply troubling. I think with this case, there are two real failings. First of all, there is the fact that he was let out of prison because he was wrongly graded as medium risk. This is a man who had extensive history of violent, very violent behaviour. An ex-partner saying that she feels lucky to still have her life and to still be alive. Somebody who stamped on Zara when she was on the floor. It's not just his sexual predatory behaviour, it is the significant level of violence. The fact that there was a restraining order that was actually granted back in 2021, and that wasn't taken into consideration. So systematic failings of his release from prison, about that grading of him being medium risk. The other systematic failing for me here is the fact that as a child growing up, he lived in a very violent home. He is somebody who was expelled from school. He was somebody for whom domestic abuse was very much the norm as he was growing up. He was a drug taker in his late childhood, early teens. And actually, if you look at all of those facts, that is the second point with this particular individual, McSweeney, where this crime of the sexual assault and murder actually could have been prevented.
Yeah, and it still begs the question, and given obviously the identification of all these staffing problems, and therefore maybe one thinks extra input in terms of paying conditions, as in other public services, could ameliorate that. There is the question of competence. Are the probation staff expert enough nowadays to identify these problems that one thinks when one looks at this case, the alarm bell should have been ringing from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I work very closely with the probation service in my own patch here in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And I have to say that probation colleagues do an excellent job. They are dealing with some of the most criminalised, some of the most dangerous people in society when they are released from prison. However, it is a numbers game. It's the same as policing. The more probation officers you have, the smaller their individual caseloads, the more attention to detail they will give. And then they won't be as pressurised and as under pressure. And I think all credit to the Director of the Probation Service, who has taken this on the chin, who has said, actually, we got it wrong, hands up. But we have to learn from this. It's the same in police and police service. It's the same with the probation service, and also with prisons, who are also really in crisis at the moment with not having enough prison officers across the country. So it is a numbers game. I don't hold any specific blame here at the probation service. I would imagine the probation officer who made that decision has a caseload that's probably nearly double the size of what it should be, and we need to factor that in when we are looking at apportioning blame and or pointing the finger. This is a systematic problem. I don't think it's probably down to an individual. I don't know the ins and outs of this, but that would be my judgment on this one. But nonetheless, the important thing is that learning comes from this, and that probation staff are supported better with those 2,000 extra probation officers that we've just heard about.